for you, Richard. I'm picking on you today. Behave yourself, okay?
I'll
I
try.
tell that everybody, but just especially for Richard. We're coming up on LinkedIn now, and let's get the feed. Here we are. Okay, Matt, we're ready.
All right, here we go. Have a good show.
Thank you.
Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes away? Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now, where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
Thank you to the wonderful intro voice, Bonnie D. in the house. Happy to meet you, my wonderful guests. I know a couple of them from past shows years ago, and happy hello to all of our audience around the world. A couple of years ago, your cocktail party chatter probably changed to something you never thought you would be talking about in polite company. Supply chain. Oh, I can't get this. I can't get that. Where is it? It's stuck somewhere. My goodness. What was it? It became something we all talked about. Well, now it's kind of in the background because we have other so-called fish to fry, but it's still important. And we're wondering today, you want it when? You want it now? Where is it in your supply chain? And the question on the table is, can AI, will AI, should AI help your supply chain? So I'm going to read my little opening poem, those of you who watch the show. And by the way, we still have about 185,000 listeners a year all over the world. I'm very proud of that. And thousands more are watching us on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. And we welcome everybody, and hello to virtually everybody listening on the Voice America Business Channel. So let me read my little poem. And those of you wondering, what? She has ChatGPT write a whole poem for her? I just want to do a disclaimer. I recently had to take a trip to the ER. I'm fine, but the doctor, who's 6'8" tall, walked into the waiting room at around 10 o'clock at night, and he said, Bonnie, I have good news. We did a CAT scan. You have a brain. So, Richard, you could feel better now. So I'm the human part. Brad, you can smile now. So I'm the human part of the poetry writing. And here's what I co-versed. I like to say that with ChatGPT. Welcome, dear audience, to Technology Revolution's Glow, with Bonnie D and her scarlet mic on her Future of Now show. In this era of evolution, AI takes the lead, transforming supply chains, hoping to fill every need. With data-driven insights and automation's might, the future of supply chains, we hope, finally shines more bright. Today, 4 futurists predict supply chains embrace in AI, transforming its face as we reach. Everybody reach up, reach for the sky. We have, you take directions very well, Paula. Hans Thalbauer with UiPath Supply Chain Rain. Wave hello, Hans. Crafting solutions worldwide. Innovation is his gain. Welcome, Hans. Years since I've seen you. Delighted to have you. Paula Natoli is with us. At Google Cloud, she brings her might to supply chain excellence with AI's insight. Welcome, Paula. I hope you enjoyed that. Richard Howells, still at SAP, a seasoned guide, driving thought leadership with wisdom, always by his side. There you go, Richard. And Brad Pawlowski, we discussed that, an Accenture expert supreme, leads cloud transformation, a supply chain dream. I hope you like that, Brad. There you go. I got a good eye up from him. The intersection of AI and supply chains glow. A revolution awaits. Tune in today, and you'll be in the know. Okay, kids, thumbs up, or what do you think? How'd we do? Pretty good? Everybody liked it? Okay. I can rent you the verse I wrote about you, the poem. It's for rent after the show. I'll let you know. I'll have to set up a wallet and we'll talk about that. So Bonnie D here, happy to be here. This is my joy on Wednesdays, is getting to talk to really smart people. People say, what's your why? My why is talking to smart people every week. And for the past year or so, we've been focusing on AI, different industry, profession, career, soft skill every single week. So let's get the party started here. I'm going to ask my esteemed guest to please crunch into 3 minutes. I'm not clocking you exactly. Hans Thalbauer, we're going to start with you. Who are you? Why are you here? And especially, Hans, tell the audience, what's your passion for this topic? Why does this matter to you? Hans, welcome.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for having me and this wonderful panel. Thanks for everyone for showing up. So I'm really grateful for that, and I think actually it will be a great discussion. So what I'm doing, you mentioned it already. Right now, my job is to really looking after the global supply chain practice at UiPath. And before that, I spent actually my career working on supply chain topics across the world in across all the industries. I was for a long, long time at SAP for more than 20 years. I was also at Google. And so therefore you see also the friends here on the show, right, from these companies. And so all the time on supply chain. Supply chain, if you think about it really in the broadest sense of the term, also including the engineering topics and research and development and procurement and supply chain planning, of course. And then you have logistics and production and maintenance. So really the design to operate kind of principle which we were following there. And I had always fun doing that, and also have seen a lot in the past, let's say, 25 years in the industry and how everything evolved. And artificial intelligence is definitely the topic where I think this is the first time where we can really have a breakthrough in supply chain. We did a lot, right, in the last 25 years. There were a lot of productivity gains, and we have applications to help you standardize processes. We have data lakes which help you to get visibility. But I think what it's really now doing with artificial intelligence, it really allows you to really make a step change in not just automating, but really making things smarter, making decisions much smarter. And doing that in the supply chain context is of course, what we want to discuss. I think we are at the very beginning of applying artificial intelligence into supply chain. But yeah, this is what we are aiming for in this hour to find out a little bit more about this, I think.
Thank you very much, Hans. Pleasure to have you. You were at SAP when we met. We did a show together. We think around 7 years ago. So it's
Yes, and I'm
lovely
still wearing blue shirts, right? So
lovely to see you again. And somehow you and I connected on LinkedIn, and you were the one who brought me this topic, and you engaged this panel. So I'm appreciative to you. Paula Natoli, we just met a few minutes ago. Delighted to have you on the show. Why don't you share with us, please, your background and what's your passion for our topic? Welcome, Paula.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I think, as Hans pointed out, this is one big happy supply chain family, frankly. I think we've all been in this space for a long time, and the ability to kind of congregate on new topics is fascinating. As mentioned, Paula Natoli, I'm currently part of Google Cloud's Strategic Industries organization. And I get the pleasure of basically saying, there's all this great, cool cloud technology. How can we apply it to supply chain and logistics? So I get the pleasure to cut across all industries globally and really finding that intersection. Now, I guess, how did I get here? It's kind of funny. My degree was in supply chain a few decades ago. Back then, my degree was called business logistics. I guess it was before we started to transfer into supply chain as a topic. But I knew I wanted to do business, Bonnie, and I sat through the intro to marketing and intro to finance and intro to accounting, and I very quickly cut with some of those off. And I sat into this intro to supply chain, and I went, like, I get this. This makes sense. And now, fast forward, 25, 30 years, I love what I do. I've become that mom who will admonish the supermarket checkout person if they don't properly scan because they're messing up the whole supply chain. So, here I am with COVID and everything. This is the first time, and I'm sure the rest of the panelists can agree, I don't have to explain what I do anymore. Bonnie, as you mentioned, everyone talks supply chain now. It's a dinner table conversation. So the passion that I had, back in the 90s to where we are today continues to thrive. And, no matter what, honestly, supply chains run the world. They change the world. So how can we not have passion for that? Super happy to be here.
So well put. And I just learned something. I didn't know that it used to be called business logistics. I guess everybody here did, but I missed that lesson. I was doing psychology back in the day. I like to think that I understand my panelists better because I have a degree in psychology, plus a lot of computer science degrees as well. But that's another story. Paula, delightful to have you. And I'm always interested and intrigued to have a woman on the panel when we're talking tech. It just is wonderful. Paula, I'm an early woman in tech. I was back in the day when they used to call them programmer analysts. We did both. We started with pencil and paper. Somebody on the phone said, we need this report. You designed it, you wrote it. COBOL, PL1. I was on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 back in the key punching days. I was the kickoff speaker for Women in Big Data on March 8th, 2022 as their guest speaker. And I showed them what a mainframe and a key punch machine looked like. And these young girls said, what's he talking about? Oh my God, she's from another planet. What can I tell you? So I appreciate you being here. And I love the story of your passion and what was happening all those years. I'm glad that you're along for this ride. Thank you so much. Richard Howells, this is like a reunion. You've been on so many of my SAP Game Changer shows over the years. And by the way, Richard, I don't know if you know, but Technology Revolution, the Future of Now, started in 2011 as Coffee Break with Game Changers. This was my first inaugural show for SAP when I invented the 3-minute roundtable. And 48 series later, till 2019, SAP said, bye-bye. So I brainstormed with some people and we came up with the new title, Technology Revolution. And we've retained our audience all over the world. So I'm very grateful for that. So Richard, let's catch up. How have you been and what are you doing here? Welcome, Richard Howells.
Hi, well, thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for having me. I'll be careful what I say because you might psychoanalyze me, but I'm responsible for thought leadership and awareness for SAP's ERP, finance, and supply chain solutions. So I like to say I make boring topics interesting and complex topics simple. I'm based near Boston. You can probably tell from my accent. And I've been in the supply chain space since I left college over 30 years ago. And over those 30 years, I can honestly say it's never been boring. There are always new challenges, always new things to deal with, always new opportunities, and always something different just around the corner. And I'm always eager to learn new things about new technologies. I guess I am an example of you can teach an old dog new tricks. And AI, without doubt, is the next big thing. And I believe it has the potential to be a game changer for supply chains. We've collected so much data from across our supply chains. We have so much access to data from third-party systems, structured and unstructured data. And AI will be the mechanism for finally taking advantage of that information, that data, and putting it in the business context.
Richard from Boston, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We've weathered the years well, Richard, haven't we? What can I tell you? I'm delighted to
weathered
have
them
you.
better than me, I would imagine.
Oh, you're very, very sweet. And by the way, speaking of AI, this is not the original background for this show, but I dabble in something called Night Cafe Studio, which is an AI art creation program. It's not Midjourney. It's different. If you want to know about it, I'll tell you off air. But I went into it and I said, let's do a neo-impressionism curves like a Zentangle and create for me microphones inside of hourglasses. And there is a third mic behind me. And then I went into Photoshop, good old manual Photoshop, and I added the title. And because in my intro, it says the future of now, I put now, now, ellipsis, just so you know. And you can even see my name on this one. Used to be just behind me and you couldn't see it. So this is an AI art. I call it an art spark. There you go. So thank you, Richard. Thank you, Brad Pawlowski. I am so happy. I've rehearsed your name under my breath since everybody was talking quietly so I would get it right. Brad, we're delighted to have you. I just met you like Paula, about 18 minutes ago. So would you please honor us with your bio and what's your excitement about the topic? Welcome, Brad.
Thanks, Bonnie, and really happy to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity and very well done on my name. Not easy, so appreciate that. But it is Brad Pawlowski, coming from lovely Jersey City, New Jersey, and I work at Accenture, which is a small little consulting firm of 750,000 people. So a lot of you may have heard of us. So I lead our digital supply chain transformation practice. So I get the opportunity to work with companies through supply chain transformations in the digital world. So what started as the traditional problem solving across the supply chain has continued to evolve as technology has, which now focuses on working with partners in the cloud like Paula with Google, with the large enterprise partners like Richard and SAP, and how do companies navigate all these tool sets that they now have at their fingertips to drive transformation. And that is a particular challenge on top of what they deal with day to day of getting products and services to everybody at their houses or wherever they may be. My passion for supply chain comes from my background. I'm an engineer by school, came out of engineering, wasn't sure I wanted to get into that, but loved the problem solving side. And a supply chain presented itself as the ultimate problem solving area. And so I've been there ever since and enjoyed that aspect of nonstop challenges in a very dynamic environment. And what's really exciting about where we are today is if you go back about 5 years, we're going through about 3 of the biggest changes I think I have seen in my career over 25 plus years. And that is, prior to COVID, we were looking at supply chain in a positive light in terms of it's a growth engine. So we had finally seen this switch flip to, instead of a cost center, it was a growth engine. A lot of that fueled by Amazon and how that has shown how it can be a differentiator. But then COVID hit. And yes, to Paula's point, everyone learned about supply chain, but I can't say it's in the most positive way. It's where's my stuff? Why am I not getting what I'm used to? So everyone had supply chain. It was all over the headlines, but not for the most positive reasons. So that happened. And what it did fundamentally for companies is now you had to change this cost, service, quality kind of paradigm to more reliability and agility, which they weren't used to doing. So they're in the middle of this transformation coming out of COVID, and how do we, act differently? So we've got resiliency through our supply chain, and then Gen AI hits. So now you're expected to go through this transformation faster and cheaper than you have done before. So these two forces, the post-COVID era and Gen AI, I think are 2 of the biggest changes I've seen in this space in my career. And to have them happen at the same time just is a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous challenge for all the supply chain professionals we work with. So really excited to talk about it here, and looking forward to working with my supply chain colleagues.
Thank you very much. I'm impressed with each of you, and altogether, I feel like I've assembled a very high-level cadre of experts, of aficionados, of deep expertise. And what I'm hearing from all of you is a commitment to the science and the art of supply chain. And I think there is an art in there somewhere, and we definitely know it's a science now if we consider AI some kind of a scientific breakthrough. There you go. Okay, this is the part of the show where I've asked each of you to please send me a fictional character quote from a movie or a TV show or a song lyric, and you're going to relate whatever quote you sent me to the topic. Let's take about 2 minutes each around the table. And if you have any comments or something is, oh my God, I love that movie. My mother told me about it in the womb. You're welcome to just wiggle a finger or just give me a thumbs up, and that'll be fine. So here we go. Hans Thalbauer, you have sent me a quote from I love this, song by Canadian rock band Bachman Turner Overdrive, BTO. We refer to them as 1974, written by Randy Bachman for their 3rd studio album, Not Fragile. I think that's a way we could characterize supply chain today, isn't it? Not Fragile, or a couple of years ago it was. Released as a single, blah, blah, blah. The lyrics tell of the narrator meeting a devil woman who gives him love. I'm just going to stop right there. But there is a stutter involved. You ain't seen nothing yet. No, nothing yet. And yes, it was a joke for Randy's brother who had a stutter. It was only intended to be recorded once with a stutter and only for his brother. Guess what? It became a hit. There we go. Number 2 on the UK singles chart, and their only major hit in the UK. Here is the quote. You ain't seen nothing yet. I love the quote. Hans, related to our topic, duh. I think we know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, but baby, right? So that's what I start with. But I think the funny thing is when you look at this quote and when you think about this, first of all, it took me 3 times, right, to provide the right quote. Bonnie was very particular. I had actually a challenge. I didn't read through the instructions well enough, and so I provided quotes from real people, and she actually came back to me, nope. So then I came up with this, and we came up actually with this, you ain't seen nothing yet. And I think actually, of course, the song has a little bit of a different meaning, but from these words, you ain't nothing yet, is actually really related to the topic here in artificial intelligence, because I think we are at the very beginning of leveraging artificial intelligence in the context of supply chain. And so therefore, I think this is a very good fit to the discussion. Yeah, so I think when you start believing in how this could apply and what it could actually do, then you really get to the aspects of the different areas where the biggest impact could be, right? And it has always to do with where there are many different variables where people are not able to make decisions because they don't have the information at hand, or it's too much to do this by yourself. So think about risk management topics, think about sustainability topics. Lots and lots of inputs actually are needed there, and it's really tough to work through those. If you want to have fast answers, a machine can actually do that in a very, very good way. And so therefore, these are two areas. Also, when it comes to communication and collaboration, it's very, very rigid right now, right? So we have EDI in place since 1970, 80 something, and it's still the number one tool for collaborating information. And I think we need to allow also unstructured communication. And this is where AI can help, right? And so there are many fields in the area where I think there is a huge opportunity. And of course, one of the biggest ones is, of course, the automation aspect. And here, when it comes to automation, think about what happened over the last 10, 15 years, right? When you look at the shop floor and into warehouses, automation took place to a large extent, right? So when you think about machine-to-machine communication, you see the robots, you see the conveyor belts and all of that, right? So the physical supply chain has been automated. The funny thing is the digital supply chain is still very manual, repetitive, and document-based, right? So what we call digital is actually the manual part. And so this is I think, where it is a little bit of an issue. And this is where we need to focus on. And this is where we can apply actually this technology and really bring here a step change in the supply chain process. It goes really across all the supply chain processes. But I stop here because I think actually you ain't seen nothing yet is really the theme, which I think, because we just started to look into how can artificial intelligence be applied into these different areas.
Thank you, Hans. I was thinking of you were channeling Charlie Chaplin on the assembly line in the early movies of, yes, was it digital or was it manual? Okay, and Lucy and Ethel on the Chocolate Factory. Yes, we all know those. Yes, talk about moving things along. Thank you very much. Love the song, by the way. Paula has picked an iconic quote. Lieutenant Pete Maverick Mitchell, played by the one and only Tom Cruise, and LTJG Nick Goose Bradshaw, played by Anthony Edwards. I remembered him on the original TV show called ER back in the day with George Clooney and Juliana Margulies. Yes, Top Gun, 1986 action drama film. And the only genres they hyphenate these days, Paul, are action drama. Everything else is romantic, comedy, sci-fi, adventure, everything. But action drama is usually. Cruise says the first part of this quote, and Goose joins in for, and I'll say it in a second. The movie grossed $356 million on a $15 million budget. Wouldn't you love to have been an investor on that movie? The soundtrack went 9 times platinum. Oscar for Best Original Song, Take My Breath Away. And there was a Top Gun Maverick, opened in 2022 at the Cannes Film Festival. Got a lot of good reviews. Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis, Val Kilmer, Anthony Edwards, Tom Skerritt. Maverick is a young naval officer aboard the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise. He and radar intercept officer Goose have the chance to train at the U.S. Navy's Fighter Weapons School at Naval Air Station Miramar in San Diego. And here is the quote. The first part is said by one of them and the second by the other. Goose says the second. So Maverick says, I feel the need. And Goose says, the need for speed. That was the clip I saw. Paula, talk to us about speeding the supply chain with AI. Go ahead.
We have so much opportunity here. And Hans, unlike I did follow directions. I did research and try to figure out the right one. So hopefully it ties into this. But honestly, think about it. Well, first off, who doesn't love Top Gun, right? Who doesn't love Maverick? I mean, it's iconic. But the quote, honestly, is so absolutely perfect for our topic. I'd equate it probably into 3 different areas. Number one, everything's around speed. Number one, supply chains are moving at a different level of speed today, right? All of us as fickle consumers, right? We change our preferences all the time. how does the backwards supply chain react to those changes and that speed of change, even down to the consumer demand level, right? So our supply chains are changing at a different level of speed. Number two, take into account technology. Think about, we've all been in this space for a long time. We've all seen our share of implementations of supply chain tech. How long did those typically take, right? They took some time. That's no longer acceptable, right? We can't wait 12 months, 18 months, et cetera, because our supply chains are changing so fast. By the time we implement technology, that trend has already changed, right? So not only are supply chains changing fast, the need for that speed in terms of technology implementations, the ability to see a fast return on investment becomes critical. And then third, and Hans, this ties into the points that you were raising. Technology right now is advancing at a different level of speed, right? AI's been around for a while. I don't think everybody's adopted it, or especially within our supply chain areas, we have more opportunity to adopt it. But now look at generative AI, right? Bonnie, the lovely poem you wrote us all, we weren't doing that 18 months ago. And now we're all becoming some level of experts on this newest technology that is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. So the technology itself is also changing at a different level of speed. So you combine all of those together with tech and supply chain, and we have that absolute perfect storm that's frankly going to catapult us into the future, right? Around what we have as an opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think you just wrote a poem ad hoc there, Paula. I was very impressed with the way you laid that out. Thank you very much. Speed. Yes, let's go on. I'm speeding to Richard Howells. Richard has sent a quote from Ted Lasso. Oh, I'm so sorry. They only had 3 years, 3 seasons, 3 arcs to that show, Richard. It was wonderful. Apple TV Plus. I loved every character in it. It was wonderful. Ted Lasso, played by the very talented Jason Sudeikis. American sports comedy drama, hyphenated TV series on Apple TV Plus. And this is from the quote you picked, is from season 1, episode 9, All Apologies, which aired on September 25th, 2020. I do my homework, kids. I really do. Ted Lasso is a character based on the character Sudeikis developed for the NBC sports coverage of England's Premier League. That was a character. Ted Lasso, if anybody has been living under a rock, was in the character an American football coach, college football coach, unexpectedly recruited to coach a fictional English Premier League team, soccer, called AFC Richmond, despite no experience coaching soccer. He's kind of a, straw in the mouth, all these homilies and all these things he likes to say about people and knowledge and human whatever we do. Team owner Rebecca Welton hires him, hoping he will fail because she wants to avenge her playing around ex-husband Rupert. In season 1, she changes her mind and they all fall in love with Ted because he's so adorable and he has so many things to say about human nature that are positive. So here is the quote from Ted that Richard has selected. I want you to know I value each of your opinions, even when you're wrong. Richard, I'm not sure where you're going to go with this. Take it away, Richard Howells.
Well, first, Bonnie, I've worked with Hans for many years, and I'm absolutely shocked that he didn't follow the rules. And everyone that's worked with him knows why I say that. I guess my quote is more about this session as a whole rather than the topic of AI and supply chain, because I'm really looking forward to sharing and listening with my fellow panelists, and we've already had some great conversations. I absolutely love Ted Lasso, not just because I'm a huge football, or should I say, I'll do a translation, soccer fan. But because I also love his outlook, his style, his the way that he looks at life. But if I had to relate to the topic of AI, I think AI has the ability to leverage the enormous amounts of data, as I said a little earlier, across the supply chain. But you have to be able to trust the data and be confident that it's accurate. And you also have to be able to train the AI model to ensure there's no hallucinations, no bias. So it can give positive feedback. It can give me the answers. It can give its opinions, but you have to make sure that the underlying content that it's leveraging to make those decisions, to give that feedback, is right. And so you can have great predictions, but you can have wrong analysis. Sometimes you can get the wrong answer, but much quicker is the only benefit that you get from it if you can't trust the data that you're working with. So it's more of a cautionary tale of ensuring that you have the right foundation to leverage AI across supply chains and business systems in general.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments about Hans. He tried. He really did. It happens about 1 out of every 10 guests say to me,
and I've been called out before by you for exactly the same thing.
About 1 every 10 guests says, I'm quoting Winston Churchill, whether you like it. And I said, no, not on my show. That's not how it works. Thank you very much. Somebody tried to quote somebody in a biopic recently. And I said, no, it was Ray Kroc in The Founder. And I said, he's a real person. And that was a quote from Ray Kroc. You still can't quote him because even though it's in a movie, last I checked, he wasn't fictional. We had a little argument over that one. Let's go to Brad Pawlowski's your quote. I'm not ready for predictions yet. He's picked a quote from Ron Swanson, played by Nick Offerman. Of course, the show is Parks and Recreation. Season 4, episode 16, which was called Sweet 16. It aired on February 23rd, 2012. Really? 12 years ago? I can't believe it. Political satire, mockumentary, sitcom TV on NBC from 2009 to 2015, 125 episodes, 7 seasons. And the character was Ronald Ulysses Swanson, created by Michael Schur and Greg Daniels, with inspiration from a real-life libertarian elected official. We won't go any deeper to that. Offerman added his own personality to the character. NBC didn't want to cast him. It took them 5 months to agree. Here we go. Here is the quote. This is an interesting one, Brad. I take it from you. I'm going to use some language here. Never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. Oh my, Brad. That's probably the worst language we've ever had on my show. Go ahead, rescue me.
Yeah, well, see, I think I not to the same degree as Hans, but I was questioning whether I was abiding by the guidelines with my quotes. I'm glad it fit in under the the censors here and made it through. But I really do like that quote, and to tie it to what we've been talking about, and piling on what Richard said in terms of the data aspect, and Paula from a speed perspective, and Hans from the transformational nature of analytics in Gen AI. We need to make that a reality, and it comes down to people. So the thinking behind that quote is, we're in an attention-based economy, right? At the macro level, you're sitting there with your significant other, or if you have kids, trying to get them out of devices and focus on, people, that's tough. And focusing on any given topic, that is tough. That is certainly perpetrated into companies, and this notion of how do you keep people focused, and how do you let them develop some specific skill sets? Because as we talk about transforming functions with Gen AI, whether we're talking about planning, fulfillment, manufacturing, the core understanding of what that area does is still needed. And so as we start to, train people and get them up to speed, developing expertise in one or multiple of those areas is critical. And then you can layer on, the technology, the automation, the analytics, the Gen AI. And so this focus that we need is really at the core of bringing these digital capabilities to life. We had done some research, and this was really at the advent of Gen AI, to look at the digital maturity of companies. And the average company was 48%, 48 out of 100. So that was pre-Gen AI. So that number, and we're refreshing that research, is likely sliding downwards. And so when you think about the inability to adopt some of these digital capabilities, I do think it comes down to focus, learning some core skills, staying focused on one area, maybe 2 areas, and then building from there. And so that's what really is behind my thinking, because the people in the organization, the people in the supply chain, that's what brings to life. And so this notion of, never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing, that's what I would, like the message to be as we help people, start their career and focus in supply chain. Start somewhere and build. And that's where that quote comes from.
Thank you. You elicited smiles from everybody on the panel. I went to a reaction shot. Paula's going, I know, I know. Yes, thank you very much. Let's go to our predictions round, although we've been predicting all along since we started the show. Let's keep the unpacking of each prediction to 2 minutes if you can, and then a quick comment round. I won't call on anybody, but if you wiggle a nice finger at me, I will call on you with a 1-minute comment. I want to make sure we get one prediction from each. Hans, I am picking your prediction number 4. It's already in the chat for you, and here's what you said. AI will make supply chain more sustainable. Logistics, there's Paula's word, make up 11% of global greenhouse gas emissions every year. AI will help generating more optimized transportation routes and optimized loads. Transportation is complex. Many parties are involved. The breakthrough will still take a few years, but you're still predicting it will happen. What year, Hans? You want to give us a specific? Oh, no, I'm not going to pin you down. Hans, 2 minutes. Unpack this for us. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think actually sustainability is a huge topic, right?
Yep.
Most companies in the world have made commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emission or become greenhouse gas neutral by a certain date, right? So many companies have chosen 2025, which is 1 year away, or some have chosen 2030, right? So it's not far away, right? So what the companies have committed to. And I think there are quite a number of companies who are really struggling. And when it comes to sustainability, I'm not only thinking about actually the greenhouse gas emission. It is the biggest topic and the biggest discussion topic, but I'm also talking about circular economy and I talk about social responsibility, right? So when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions, you mentioned already, logistics makes up about 11% of the total emission worldwide. When it comes to circularity, the percentage rate of circularity and circular products is 7%, right? So 93% is always new. And so 7% is the circularity. And this is really low and went down from 2019 to 2023 by 2 percentage points. It was 9%, it's now 7%, right? And then social responsibility. Here it's all about really finding out who is working in your supply chain. And in the European Union, there's a new legislation for supply chain, where you need to follow the legislation on terms of social responsibility. And I think it's very important that this happened. And I think this will be probably a model for the rest of the world as well. So 3 very, very big topics which impact the supply chain all over the place and really forces companies to think about how to set up supply chains differently. And here you have multiple variables, right? So you have so many variables that it's really, really tough to bring things together. And artificial intelligence is now a point where you can really make a difference and where artificial intelligence can really handle these different variables and also generate answers and generate solutions to these problems, right? Or proposals, right? So it's not necessarily the solution, but proposals for the humans to make a decision on it. So I'm strongly believing that this will happen, probably 2 years, 3 years, maybe a bit faster. But this is a big topic for me and a very important topic.
2 to 3 years is pretty good. Anybody have a comment? Paula, go ahead.
Yeah, Hans brings up such an important topic around sustainability. And, as Brad was talking a little bit around skill sets, one of the things that I see as well is you don't need sustainability in your title to be doing the things that Hans is talking about, right? Mm-hmm. It's the idea around having a sustainable supply chain is on top of all of us, regardless of your role in the supply chain. So Hans pointing that out is such a critical aspect. And I think I would just tie it back to the fact that we all inherently need to consume that and put sustainability in our own titles as well.
Very well put. Richard, I see that finger waving. Go ahead. And then Brad. Richard?
Yep. Paula mentioned resiliency a little earlier. Hans talked about sustainability, which I think is the big thing that's going to be driving everything for the rest of my life and beyond, hopefully. And we've got resiliency, sustainability, and what we need for both of those is visibility. How do we get better visibility? And I think AI is a mechanism to identify patterns in data that aren't possible with the human brain. So getting different points of view, different results out that can help you drive these risk resiliency initiatives, can drive these sustainability initiatives.
Visibility, good word. Brad, talk to us.
Yeah, it actually just builds right off on what Richard said. When we talk to companies about sustainability, the vast majority of leaders cite the challenge they have in their sustainability objective is ESG data measurement or lack thereof. as companies are pressed
Mhm.
beyond their, scope 1 ESG commitments in terms of what they directly control out into scope 2, scope 3, which is really your extended supplier network, that data element becomes more and more critical. And where I think the Gen AI and analytics area can really help there is now if you're talking about data sources of any kind, especially as you're getting into that vast supply network where you can get unstructured data, structured data, and really have the ability to have visibility and then measure these ESG objectives. So I think there's some great opportunity of marrying together the Gen AI analytics space we're in now with the sustainability objectives that were started several years ago.
Thank you. The institution of marriage is alive and well. I had to say that, Brad. I'm sorry. Thank you all. Hans, great starting point for the predictions round. I appreciate that. I'm not going to go back to you because I have to speed through this. Paula, I was going to combine two, but it looks like we touched on one. Let me read the one that you predicted and then the one I want you to talk about. Paula says the expected skills of supply chain business and IT professionals will blur with AI skills at the heart of convergence. Just let's let that sit there for a minute. But here's where I wanted you to go. You say AI with intelligent reasoning coupled with a generative AI conversational flow will be the foundation of supply chain simulations. We haven't talked about that yet. Paula, take your 2 minutes. Unpack, please.
Yeah. I think, we all know the term simulation, scenario planning, right? We all kind of live and breathe that in everything we do within our supply chain environments. The opportunity now to inject some of that newer technology opens up new doors that we probably haven't yet seen before. So take an example. If you want to optimize flow of a product throughout your distribution network, what types of simulations occur, right? It's probably a lot of data dumping into spreadsheets, layering on some type of optimization engine to be able to optimize for least cost, as an example, balancing your service levels versus your inventory costs, right? Or what if you want to open up a new warehouse or a new store? How does all that start to change and fluctuate? And it's always this offshoot project that goes on. It's the same type of thing we've all seen in inventory optimization, right? It's kind of a once a year, twice a year thing, offshoot, bring the information back. If we now layer in that concept of simulation, but layer on top of it also a generative AI workflow, it opens up new doors. Meaning, no, you can't do this, but have you considered this? Think about that coming through. That's the level of intelligent reasoning that these new technologies can start to bring to fruition. So it opens up new doors. The ability to simulate opportunities across the end-to-end supply chain are going to be at new levels. And Bonnie, as you pointed out, how does that tie to skill sets? What skill sets do we all need to be able to utilize these new technologies? One of the things is that blurring of the lines, right? Many times when you talk technology, it goes to the IT group, right? The IT group runs it. Or if you're going to talk a business use case, it goes over to the business side. The fact of the matter is that's blurring. Just like the sustainability topic, don't just have sustainability in your title. Tech people need to understand the business, and the business people are going to need to understand the tech to be able to unlock these new use cases. So it's going to be some cool stuff, some new stuff that we haven't seen before, and opportunities are endless.
Thank you very much. Any quick comments? Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, it was interesting. You mentioned inventory optimization and scenarios and simulations. And the challenge with all of the simulations and inventory optimization logic is that it's done in a black box and the information is generated. And I see AI and Gen AI in particular as an opportunity to actually interrogate those systems as well, to ask how things were calculated. Why did you decide this in this scenario? Why did you decide this in this inventory optimization run? Because most people don't fully appreciate how things are calculated. They have to trust the fact that the information is correct, and being able to interrogate that data is a huge opportunity for Gen AI.
Paula?
Yeah, and that goes back to the point that you were raising before, right? Is around the data, understanding the data, and the ability to interrogate it ties perfectly into this scenario.
I like the word interrogate the data. I haven't heard that before. Hans, unmute. Talk to us. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think actually the topic is so relevant because when you think about new product introduction, this is a process which happens in silos, right? So engineering makes their decisions, then supply chain makes their decisions, then manufacturing there, and nothing is really connected. And the topic of simulation, being able to simulate the entire thing, is actually the key aspect, right? Because when what is being decided in engineering, 80% of the costs are predefined already at this point in time. Supply chain can be not optimized more than the rest of the 20%, right? So now if we can go across all of this and really breaking down the silos between these organizations, leveraging AI and doing the simulations in a smart way, I think huge benefit.
Thank you very much. Brad, I didn't see your finger. I'm going to move on. I have two predictions teed up for Richard in the chat. Richard, I'm going to read both of these. Let's do a 2-minute round here. You say AI will not replace humans, but humans who leverage AI will replace humans who don't. This is a tag onto your comment, Paula. And Richard also says, and let's be careful with this one, AI has great potential to improve supply chains, but also the potential to be used erroneously and provide misinformation if not managed and controlled correctly. Controlled correctly is a key here, I think. Richard, let's talk really fast about the humans who don't understand and don't leverage AI, and then let's go to the other one. Richard, go.
Well, I like any technology, whether you're talking about the first industrial revolution to the second, everyone said, oh, it's going to eliminate jobs. And every time it generated new jobs, it generated different jobs, different skill sets were created as a result of certain things being automated, for example, in the Industrial Revolution. And AI is exactly the same. There'll be new opportunities. We'll have to upskill and uptrain our workforce to be able to take advantage of AI, to learn how to talk to the system rather than just use a query or use some analytics. Because I believe, will improve efficiency of the users. It'll automate the mundane, repetitive tasks. For example, one of the great use cases that we talk about is quality control checks. And you can use cameras now and train the AI tool to capture that information and determine defects on the production line. And it works better than a human at doing that because humans lose focus. They can't, if you're just looking at a production line all day, it gets you get into a trance in some ways, and the camera doesn't, and AI doesn't. It will spot all the defects, but it enables you to then leverage those people to do more value added things, to improve their efficiency, to be able to do more on a daily, and also improve the user experience, because it's much more fun to do something that adds value to the company rather than just say, yeah, that's a problem with that. That's okay. There's a problem with that. It really is finding ways of better utilizing humans and create more creativity with the human brain, and also empower them to make more informed and value-added decisions. And the second one, I think I covered this a little bit at the start when I talked about it's all about getting the foundation right. If you put bias into the way that the AI is trained, it will give you the wrong information. So there's no point in getting the wrong information quicker. You've got to make sure that that foundation is right, so that when you leverage any technology, the results that come out of it will be correct.
Algorithmic bias. I don't have time for a comment round. I want to get a prediction in here from Brad. Brad, we covered a lot of yours in the conversation, but let's go to number 4. You say leading supply chain organizations will be the ones, and the key word here is leading, will be the ones that put their people topic at the top of their agenda. So let's talk a little more about the humans. Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, and we like to put the people at the center of all the change we drive with companies. And I think as easy as it is to get caught up in particularly the Gen AI hype, you cannot overlook the people side of it. And how are you truly going to transform the skill sets you need, the roles that people play, the organizations they reside in? If you embrace Gen AI for what it can do, this is transformation at its core. We took a look across, multiple supply chain processes, about 122 total. 58% of them should be significantly impacted, transformed via Gen AI. And this cannot be simply saying, hey, now I have this report available to me. This is now, to some of the other points we talked about, with end-to-end simulations and looking at problems in a completely different way, where we may have had an engineer solve a problem before for what's the best way to develop this product. Now I can solve for what also has the lowest cost and the lowest carbon footprint of that because I have the ability to look end to end. So these are going to be new skill sets. These are going to be more cross-functional. And in leading supply chains are the ones that are going to embrace that and not just look to kind of turn the dials a bit, but kind of throw away the dials and look at things completely differently, look at things end to end. And the last point I'll add, which I think is encouraging, if I compare this to the analytics and automation wave that hit us probably 5-8 years ago, this one has a much more top-down feel. The interest in Gen AI is coming from the C-suite and going down. And it's not just a, hey, I'm hearing about this, check the box. We are seeing C-level executives wanting to be trained in depth on Gen AI. And when you have that kind of drive, that means this isn't going to be just a project that IT takes up. This is something that will truly change companies. So I think the people side is at the core, and it's really encouraging to see from a leadership perspective, this wave feels like it is going to be much more significant.
Thank you, Brad. And I'm going to add one more of your predictions just to wrap this up, put a neat bow on the whole topic, and then we're going to close. You say it's the end of supply chain as we know it. Long live supply chain. The cost, service, quality paradigm is no longer. We're now in autonomy, resiliency, and sustainability. I thought that was, everybody's nodding. I think that was a nice way. Just Brad, 1 minute talk, and then I'll just take a 30-second comment around the table. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
sure.
Brad.
And this just goes to speak that if you talk to supply chain professionals going back 20, 30 years, you could boil it all down to cost, service, quality. That was it forever. And really stoked by COVID, which just accelerated everything, that paradigm completely changed. Autonomy, resiliency, sustainability. That's what you're solving for now. And it's fundamentally different. So the incentive structure, the outcomes are very different. And now you throw Gen AI on top of it where you have to do it faster and cheaper. We're in this era of just dynamic change.
Thank you. Any comments around the table? Paula, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I love the. I will say I'm singing some Billy Joel songs now to that to your points there, Brad. So I got to get that out of my head. But anyway, I think you're spot on with that. And the 3-level paradigm is also just exploding. It's no longer even 3, or even Hans, I think you were pointing out before, of the least cost versus the most sustainable route, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of our supply chain brains used to optimize for one thing, least cost, right? Right, Brad, as you're pointing out. It's more complicated now. And the tools that we have at our disposal to handle that level of complexity gives us what we need in our toolboxes. So I love it.
Thank you. Glad we put the bow on that. Hans, anything you want to say? And Richard, I can give you each 30 seconds. We're almost at the end. Hans?
I think it's very clear that artificial intelligence really will make the difference. I think all the experts here are pretty much of the same opinion. I like Richard's caution, though, of having the data sets correct. I think if you go on biased data or let's say disruptive data, then also we can add more supply chain disruptions with AI, right? So I think this is actually something we need to watch.
Richard, one comment?
We've got to be careful of making sure that we don't get to the situation where it's the answer is AI, what's the question? We have to find business use cases for driving AI. And at the end of the day, I think Gen AI and AI in general is about how to augment the workforce to do better things.
I have a prediction of my own. I predict you're all going to accept my invitation to come back for part 2 this summer. And we're going to hone the oh, Brad's thinking, yeah, she's inviting me back. That's pretty cool. I watch. That's why we're all on Zoom. I used to do this all on the phone, by the way. Richard remembers those days where I had 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 people on the phone, and we were I had to figure out, was that a semicolon? Did Brad just put a comma in there? Did Hans just have a period at the end of that sentence? Is he done? Can I talk now? Anyway, now I can see you think. The question is, would you like to come back and talk about honing into specific industry supply chains? Examples. Richard's a thumbs up. What do you think, Paula? Would you like to? Brad? Good. I will, after we're done in about 2 minutes, I will give you all a date. I really want to pin it down. So I have a quick homework assignment for all of you, a pop quiz, if you will. On the count of 3, I want you to join me in raising your wagging finger, and we're going to say no, 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 because I have a comment to make, and Matt, my engineer, is telling me we're almost out of time. So on the count of 3, no, no, no. People say the future is already here. And our answer is, you ready on the count of 3? No, no, no.
no.
Oh, come on. You can do better than that. 1, 2, 3. No,
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 no.
no. Not bad. A Greek chorus, but not bad. The answer is that was yesterday's future. The statement I just made was in the future because I was thinking about it. It's in the past already. Life goes so fast. We're all going to do our best to make it a more sustainable, more interesting, more fun, more productive, more human future. Did I really say that? Bonnie D signing off. Wave goodbye, Hans Thalbauer. Wave goodbye, Paula Natoli. Wave goodbye, Richard Howells. Wave goodbye, Brad Pawlowski. I said it. Wave goodbye to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to YouTube, and to Voice America virtually on the Business Channel. Matt, are we out?
We are out.